welcome to another video from theplayers8.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today is our May monthly debrief of 2025, brought to you in July of 2025. That's not true. Hopefully I'll get it before then. But it is very late in the day.
Late in the month, very late in the month.
And you'll notice we have a slightly different background because we're at Grant's house today. Yeah. That's how desperate we were.
Yeah.
Is that we had to come and do this because otherwise it wasn't going to happen. It's just been such a busy period.
Well, and this is in the middle of the day. We've both worked in the morning.
Yeah.
After lunch, and it's just what has had to happen because of vacations and different things going on.
Yeah.
We had an emergency.
Yeah, we had some water
bunker.
come into the basement that put that out of action, which wasn't great. And
For 2 weeks,
I've been
we
gone
haven't
for
been able to
work.
play,
And
yeah.
it's just been, it is what it is, unfortunately. But we're back in the saddle. We're talking about some war games. So this particular episode is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Love Noble Knight Games. They're good friends of this channel and friends of the show. And
I got my cool Noble Knight hat.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I have a brown one. I wear it all the time.
I love it.
I wear it all the time.
I game in it a lot. It's fun.
And that's so more from them to come a bit later on. I also I did buy a game for Noble Knight Games this past month as well. I'll tell you about it.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
Nothing wrong with that.
but when I tell you what it is, you're like, maybe there is something wrong.
Oh well. Yeah, don't tell me.
But
You know, it's interesting. I saw someone comment this week on a price of a game
oh well.
that Noble Knight had, and it was the only copy they had. The game's out of print. And it's so interesting because we as Americans believe in the capitalist society. I think that's changing, but that's the concept for 100 years, right? It's make money, and that's where supply and demand come into effect.
Yeah.
When
Very basic economics.
When the game's out of print, they can charge $250.
It's a seller's market, not a buyer's market.
I don't know. I kind of laugh, and I don't want to be an apologist, right? That's not my intent in bringing this up. I just think that people need to consider what you're saying before you say it. Because if they had the game, and they knew it was the only copy available, they'd sell it for $200 or $300. That's just the way it is. How many times on Board Game Geek Marketplace have you overpaid for a game? Not so much anymore because of Noble Knight.
Every time.
Right. It's because they've only got a couple of copies and they sell it. I just thought it was funny. So I wanted to bring that up. Call me an old curmudgeon, get off my lawn, whatever you want to say. But just, yeah.
I did see exciting stuff on their social media that they are in the construction process of expanding their warehouse.
For their warehouse, yeah.
So that's pretty cool because I know they've been talking about the plans for that a few years ago, and seeing that come to fruition is awesome. It means more space for games.
Yeah, right.
We all need that. So once they're done with that extension, perhaps they can come and build onto my house. That would be wonderful. So let's jump into kind of what we played in May, which seems like a very long time ago when we're recording this, and I had to kind of look up of what did we even play? So a big portion of that was at the beginning of May, we were still at Buckeye Gamefest, which again feels like a lifetime ago.
It does. Well, it literally was almost 2 months ago.
Yeah, so
it was 2 months ago.
There was a ton of games that we played at Buckeye Gamefest. You can look at the past debrief where we ran through those. There is a full debrief from Buckeye Gamefest where we talked about all of those.
Yeah.
But the highlights of those were things like successes, right?
Yep.
Great fun. What was that one? Divine Right. Just kidding.
Not as great.
We played it, but not as great.
Well, we played Congress of Vienna. We played Crusade and Revolution.
We played New Cold War.
We played New Cold War. We played Tattered Flags Volume 1 Into the Whirlpool. We
Black
played
Orchestra. You may have said that.
So good. Black Orchestra we played. We played Lord of the Rings trick-taking game.
We played some of the Nations and Cannons role-playing game. Just
1714 Case of the Catalans we played, which was a great game.
Really good game.
We played a ton of games. I think we overall played 14 games. Now, a couple of those were the last 2 days of April.
Yes.
But then basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we played a ton of games. So had a great time, and those were the games that we played. I don't want to bring those up again.
Yeah, we've kind of run through
Crisis 1914 was another one we
yes.
played, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite historical focused just board games.
It's such an interesting and fun game.
Yeah.
If you can get past the rulebook.
Well, and I saw it was nominated for a Charlie. It did not win in the category it was nominated in.
Yes.
But I also think that I'm not sure people really fully know that much about it.
Well, and
Right?
that's just it, right? The actual game and the gameplay deserves a nomination.
100%.
But being
clunky.
able to get there is a
clunky.
huge barrier for most people.
It is.
It's
My
really,
guess is a lot of people bought it, they started to play it, and they're like, oh, I don't know how to do this.
And the video went up of that. So there's a review video of that on a channel. And there was a lot of discussion and comments of like, yeah, the rulebook is the game. And you're like, you're correct.
Yeah.
To an extent. Like, I agree with that sentiment. Like, if you have a bad rulebook, that's not good.
No.
Most of the time, if you have a bad rulebook, you have a bad game. Unfortunately, this is the one instance where there is a good game there. The rulebook stands in the way of that. And
I think
that was frustrating.
I think a lot of times designers and even developers, they kind of get nose blind to, they understand the concepts, but they don't necessarily explain those concepts as clearly or as well as needed to get people to understand.
Yeah.
I remember you told me the first time you played it up in Minnesota with some people, you guys were just like, we think we played it right,
Yeah.
but
we think we did.
You couldn't necessarily divine that from the rule book.
Nope.
That was verified when we played it with Maurice Suckling, the designer at San Diego Historicon, that, we did get it right, or you did get it right.
Was that your first time playing it?
That was my first time,
Because
yeah.
I played it subsequently after that first play, in between those two. So I hadn't played it twice. And we were like, the second time, we'd done a lot of the research, he'd answered some questions, we'd got new play aids, and we were like, okay, now we pretty much think it was right. And then I think when we played it at SDHC, it was like, now I'm confident that we're playing it right. Because we had questions still, or we weren't implementing things perhaps as
the way
often
that
as they could have been, and then doing that, and then now we played it subsequently again, and now I'm like, okay, I know how to play it, I could teach it, that's fine.
And once again, I would say that is a very solid, historically based board game.
Yes, agreed.
Very interesting.
Did we play Drop Zone Southern France in May?
We did not. That was in April.
That was an April game, okay.
Yeah, we played that in April. The only other game we played in May, we did play Fighting Formations.
That was May.
29th Infantry Division.
I get my...
I know, it's
just been a bit.
Well, and particularly since it's the end of the month, so it's been even longer.
Yes,
But
and
we
I played
did
a lot of
play
the games this month.
29th Infantry Fighting Formations, and that game was amazing.
Yes.
I had a blast with that one.
And I think the video for that's already up as well. Or it's coming very soon.
Raw or the First Impressions is up,
That's
and
the
then
one I was
review is coming up.
That
very good game from GMT.
That game was extremely good. Tactical two-player World War II hex encounter game by Chad Jensen, the late Chad Jensen, unfortunately. And it's this thing where it's not Combat Commander, but it has some adjacency to that.
Really uses really uses a total different activation system. Cards aren't used the same. They're kind of events. They're not necessarily driving the action. You're choosing your actions.
That little order matrix,
it's so very good.
But it's the same like scale and scope.
Right. It feels similar.
And enjoyment that you get from Combat Commander, even though mechanically it's quite different.
Yeah.
Like the dice resolution's real cool, where you are rolling these 2d10s and adding like a bunch of stuff to it, and there's all sorts of things within that. Like it's real fun, but it feels like a Chad Jensen game.
Yeah.
And that's like only positive things, basically.
Well, and it is really a solid tactical. I mean, it's combined arms, but
that's a huge win.
Tactical. I always felt like Combat Commander could have used some vehicles, but
they fit so well in fighting formations.
Yeah.
The way that they've structured the combat mechanic it's different from the small arm stuff, but it uses the same dice and systems and ideas,
right?
So that you don't have to learn two separate systems, which a lot of games end up doing, which is like obnoxious.
Agreed.
Honestly. But that was an excellent game.
The only other I did some solo gaming. I think you did a little bit as well, or did you?
In May,
not?
I didn't. It's all in June. Which
so
is
I
fine.
did some in May, and then it spilled over. I played them again in June. So I'm just going to bring out the 3 or 4 that I played. So this is a solitaire game, Crusaders, the Siege of Acre or Acre. I don't really know how to say it. There's a couple different pronunciations online.
You know what's funny?
Or Akko. I've even seen Akko. But anyway, this is from Blue Panther. It is designed by, and I want to get this right, Joe Fernandez, I believe. Yeah, Joe Fernandez, right there. He has a small company, but this one is done through Blue Panther. Very simple, very fun, very interesting solitaire game. It is about the siege of Accra by the Muslim troops against the Christians. Very simple, plays in about 25 to 30 minutes. Not a ton of choices, but there are some choices in there, and I think it makes for a very interesting game. I played this 3 or 4 times. I've won once, so it's pretty challenging, but very much enjoyed it. I did do videos on that.
Do you play as the Crusaders?
You play as the Crusaders.
The defenders.
There's no option to play as the Ottomans. The other game that I played was a roll and write game. I've never played a roll and write game, and this is one that you had to print off, right? So it's a print and play. I just got a manila folder, printed off the title sheet, and then the game's inside. But this one's called War in the Pacific, World War II roll and write game. So what is a roll and write game? You literally roll a bunch of dice, and you're trying to match your die results to the results that are required for different stages of the game. So you're invading the Southwest, or the South and the Central Pacific, and you're trying to take over the different islands, and they'll have a certain amount of numbers. They might have 3 dice that one needs to be a 6, one needs to be a 5, and one needs to be a 4.
Okay.
And you roll those dice, and if you don't have those, you have some options for re-rolls, you have some decisions to use about your supply and your assets. You're also trying to develop the atomic bomb so that you can drop that on Japan, forcing a surrender. Very fun, very light game. I've played that about 10 times. You literally have a sheet of paper.
You just check off when you've rolled the Yahtzees.
And you're trying for this one, and you just, I checked it off and I defeated it. And then you move on. And very fun, very light. This cost me $5. $5. And then I had to print it off, probably cost me $5 in paper and a folder. But I played that. There are some videos on that will be coming on the blog. The other game that I played, and it's actually set up over there because I need to do a playthrough and a video review, Iwo Jima 1945 from Worthington Publishing. This is a follow-up game to their Tarawa 1943. Similar system. You use some cards. You are playing as the Americans assaulting, amphibious landing, Iwo Jima. And very hard. It's all about cohesion and managing the condition of your troops so that you can attack. You have to take over every position on the island and not have a ton of your guys meet their end. Very hard. I've not even come close to winning it. And I played it, I think, 3 times. So I will play this a bunch in June, as I will play Crusaders in June. So, and then the other one that I dabbled with, but I didn't get very far on, was another roll and write game called Siegeworks, a Napoleonic siege roll and write game. Same concept, it's just about Napoleonic era and Napoleonic Wars.
And is there a bunch of different
There are
sieges?
like 4 different sieges you can do.
So you've got San Sebastian.
Yep. What's
Copenhagen.
I can't read that one.
Ciudad Rodrigo.
Spain, somewhere in Spain. And then
Badajoz.
Yeah. So I have played, I've messed around with it. After I enjoyed this one, I got this one and started playing it. I just haven't played a lot of it yet. But I'll do some videos on that because they're fun and light and interesting. And I think there's a market for these affordable $5 to $15 print and play games that you can, because not everybody wants to spend $60 for it.
Well, yeah, and you can just like take a handful of dice and a piece of paper and put it in your backpack when you have a lunch break at work or you're going somewhere. Definitely
a portable travel game. Also, the Crusaders is a portable travel game, very small footprint. But yeah, I enjoyed playing all of those, and I will play those more in June, which this video is about.
Yes.
May. So,
well,
anyway,
sure, but
let's into June.
Look forward into June then.
Sure.
So you're going to play some of those.
Yep.
We are also going to play some other things, and I will also play some other things. So I am going to play this little postcard game called Morgans A Comin'. This is from Against the Odds. I got this free from the gentleman at, is it Days of Glory Games?
What was the name of that company we bought those games from? That seems right, but
it's something like
they're
that.
out of Virginia, if I remember correctly.
And we bought a ton of games from him at Buckeye Gamefest, and he just like had a handful of these and was like, here, you can have a bunch of these. I'm also going to play The Union Forever. So these are little postcard games, and they're designed to be 2-player, but also...
Ooh. And you know what? You used our new...
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't. So these
Those
ones,
are nice.
I played these two because these ones came with the pre-cut round of counters that you can ask for. Whereas the other ones that are in here don't. It's the ones where you have to kind of cut them out.
So we ended up buying, based on the reference of someone.
Yes.
Didier, right?
Didier, yep.
From France.
Like a die punch set?
Right, to make counters from print and play games.
I'm struggling with it.
Okay, not easy to use then.
You need to welly them so hard. I've cut out like 5 or 6 counters, and I'm like shaking the house down doing it, and it takes forever. So I got to figure out a better way to do it.
That.
Because the results are great.
Sure.
But it's
hard to do.
At the moment impractical. So I need to go back to the drawing board.
Once we figure that out, I have some other print and play games that I would love to
that it'd be perfect for.
So I wanted to make one comment about those postcard games, and those are from Against the Odds magazine.
Yes.
I played one of, I think, the greatest postcard game I've ever played, called Rattenkrieg. When I lived in Brownsburg, we had just started the channel. This was like 2017, 2018. There's still a full written review on the blog. That game was freaking amazing, and it's just a postcard game. And it came with a little sheet of die-cut counters, so I didn't have to make my own. Although on the outside of the map, you can trim those off.
And they're like, you can, if you buy from Against the Odds and like ask nicely, they might send you those.
Sure.
Or you can pay like a couple bucks to get it, I think is.
But Rattenkrieg was amazing. I haven't played that one for years. I've still got it. But it's just a simple little fun solitaire game on
Morgan's A-Comin' was fun, but The Union Forever was like real. That was like, I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
It was like difficult, but fun and engaging, and there was lots of back and forth. It was
I saw it had an Anaconda plan counter.
Yeah,
right?
and
that's cool.
And they have to keep up on that stuff.
Or you...
Otherwise,
that's what you were trying. They were trying to squeeze them economically so that they couldn't.
And if they don't
wage war,
but like when that's in place, the Union kind of will to fight decreases, and if it doesn't, it doesn't, and you need to get this down within the allotted time, and that's a huge component of it. That's a really
you have
fun
some
part
videos coming on those. I think you had at least one scheduled.
I don't think I've made the videos on those ones yet.
Okay.
But the other thing I'm going to play is Bravery in the Sand. Bravery in the Sand from Multi-Man Publishing. This is a little baggy game that I'm pretty sure we got free. They were like giving it out at WBC when you purchased from them. Because this is this is an old Hex Encounter game from like 2009. And it's 8 pages of rules. It's a 22 by 17
and it's North Africa
map, and it's Tobruk specifically.
Tobruk, okay.
So it's Baptism by Fire, the small.
Okay, nice.
No, it's
Chariots
the other
of
one.
Fire.
No, Baptism by Fire was Kazarine Pass. It was Brazen Chariots.
Brazen Chariots.
Brazen Chariots, the very small version.
BCS.
This took not very long to play. I played it solo. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to find these little small format games that like I can have on my desk, like next to my desk at work. This is about as big as it can get. And spoiler alert, I'm going to enjoy it and it's going to be real fun. Looking forward to that. And I'm also going to play...
Well, and we're going to play.
So I've played a couple of bits of this in June. I'm going to. And then we're also going to play this in June as soon as we turn the camera off. Because what I tried to do with this is I've walked through like the step-by-step learning introductory stuff. I know how to play this game, but I wanted to be able to speak to how helpful and good of an on-ramp it is for people. And spoiler alert, it's very good.
So this is the Fields of Fire Deluxe Edition.
Yes.
This is new. It came out earlier this year.
Yes.
A couple of months ago.
This is Volume 1 Deluxe Edition. It comes in a much bigger box, which is entirely necessary.
I'm going to turn that around because it was
backwards.
Because you're backwards.
This is only like half the paper. The rest of it's in my bag because I was
you
know the rules. Oh, I got the nice cube for me. set
that.
in here. And don't tip it because these
Oh, they're
are
not
all-
clipped.
No, they're half clipped.
Oh, they're half clipped. That's barbaric.
But these don't have lids because they're all stacked together.
yes,
so don't
yes,
tip
yes,
it.
yes.
And that's because this is the set that includes the Battle of the Bulge in it.
Okay.
So the Volume 1 had the Bulge expansion.
Yep.
They have a specific set that you can get that can get everything in the box and the lid closes.
Okay.
So it has to go in a much more specific order than if you get just the regular set. But I wanted to have the Bulge in here, basically.
So we're going to play this here in June.
Yes.
That'll actually probably be the only large war game that we
Probably.
played together, which is a crime.
I've got a couple of regular Rally the Troops going on. We played Viajai Nagara. I played
Yep.
PAX Premier 2nd Edition, and then the Field of the Cloth of Gold. I got those going on.
I've kind of toned back on my Rally the Troops playing
Yeah, well,
a little bit. Not because I don't like it.
it's a time commitment thing.
I have not had as much time recently for a couple of reasons.
That's the struggle. There was one. I swear there was one other game that I had played that War Story. Yes.
Oh, you played that solo?
Yes.
Nice.
I played. I will play this in June as well. I played this. I played the second mission.
Okay.
I did a
Because we
solo
played the first.
to see what it was like. Equally as awesome. Mm-hmm. Situationally very different.
Meaning the scenario was different?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So like,
But it wasn't the concept different in how it played.
No, yeah, mechanically
Just
similar.
the scenario,
and
the
this is
situation.
like because it's a legacy, like it's a campaign game, so it picks off like pretty much right where you left off.
Okay.
There's a little bit of a time jump, but like you're in the same area. Spoiler alert. Yeah. But the situations that I was finding myself in were different, like quite different enough from the ones that we had experienced.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you without
Yeah.
spoilers.
Sure.
And that was very refreshing, very rewarding. You have like 4 SOE agents going around. By the complete end of the scenario, I had 1 left alive.
Oh, nice.
It was a disaster.
And we lost, I think, at least 1 or 2 guys when we played.
Yeah.
In fact, my guy, I think, sacrificed himself.
Yeah, and this was, but it continued to be wonderful fun, really good.
Sure.
Looking forward to doing that last one
Yeah.
as well. I think that's
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 it.
probably
What we're gonna
everything
do
for
in
June.
June. Yeah, unfortunately, we just are not going to be able to play much in June, which is
No.
a shame. I have a vacation coming up. You had a couple of work trips. We had a disaster in the bunker.
And nothing was ruined.
No, fortunately.
What it meant is that there was a lot of water on the ground, and so it was not accessible in the way that it would have.
yeah, been normally.
That would have been, yes.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
But it's all sorted now, and we'll be good to go. Do anything on Kickstarter or crowdfunding?
I mean, there's a bunch. There's always a bunch.
I know that
I should have prepared myself.
I backed Innis, which is not a war game.
Okay.
But it's one of those Matago area control style dudes on a map game.
Yep.
I have played it once before, and I loved it. I don't know if you played that game.
I have not.
Okay.
You talked to me
and
about
I
it.
thought that was the case, so I was like, you know what? They're doing a new edition with an expansion. I'll get it so that we can play it because it's really, really good, and it's just it's a different spin on those ones that we like Cyclades and Kemet.
Yep.
It's a little different, but it's very cool. So
Yeah.
I backed that one.
Gallipoli Order to Die is coming to an end very, very soon. So depending on when you actually had already concluded. So Conquest of Paradise Deluxe 3rd Edition.
I backed that.
You did back that.
Yes.
Okay, so that actually concluded on June 6th. Will conclude on June 6th.
Which I'm extremely excited for.
Another one that I backed was Liberation, which is a French resistance style cooperative, semi-cooperative game. Looks amazing. Those are the 3 that I am aware of.
And people will ask, I get a lot of questions. Are you going to cover Company of Heroes 2 when it shows up? Yes.
When it shows up.
We will show when it shows up. I was in the process of getting a quote for like airdrop shipment, which I was probably going to pay.
So were they literally going to paradrop it over your house?
Pretty much.
Wow, that would have been really cool. That would have been worth
But
paying
in the
whatever
process
price.
of getting the quote, the kind
started
of
shipping.
the tariff situation cleared itself up. So now they're saying we're not doing that. We're going to ship them all now.
Got it.
but so now they're like repalleting everything so that they can get a shipping quote, so they get shipping booked, so then it can ship and then it can get to us. So it will be at least another 4 or 5 months probably.
Okay. Jeez.
So when it arrives,
That one's been going on for what?
Probably 5 years.
4 or 5 years.
But when it arrives, we'll play it.
Yeah.
Just
What's not to like a tactical World War II game that uses cool minis?
extremely cool.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I want to play
And
that?
with cool terrain and like it looks
Yeah.
awesome. We'll get to it. I won't tell you.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
With the understanding, we only have so many gaming times a month. We do about 4 games a month,
Yeah.
and we got a lot. I'm gonna be honest.
People are like, oh, when's what are you going to get to? I'm like, dude,
it's not even here.
we're not going to get it for another
months.
very long time. So
It might be a 2026 game. Right?
I hope not. I really hope not, but
Yeah.
it could be. Just is what it is. But yeah, I think that's most of the stuff that's on Kickstarter-ish. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot out there, but that's the stuff that
I do
I've
know
got
there's some
going
bigger Kickstarters coming up in July, so I know one. So we're skipping a
jumping
month.
ahead a little.
Old School Tactical Volume 5
Exciting.
is coming up from Flying Pig Games, so that's one to look forward to. I also know they're releasing Rock of Chickamauga, I think, in July, which Herman Lettman's Black Swan series, American Civil War. We loved A Most Fearful Sacrifice.
Yes.
Can't wait to get this one and give it a spin. But those are kind of 2 games that I know of that are
big
upcoming.
ones. Very exciting.
We also, in May, received a copy of Werewolf. Here, I'm going to...
From Legion Wargames.
I'm going to put this, because we have not played it yet. This is a coin series adjacent design. So it uses a lot of the mechanics and the concepts used in the coin series. Asymmetric factions, 4 factions, 2 generally insurgent, 2 general government. It is about a plausible what-if scenario where the werewolf insurgency, which those who don't know a lot about that, I didn't know a lot about that until I started studying about this game, but there was a movement near the end of the war where there were some radicalized Nazis who were wanting to continue the fight after the surrender in May of 45. This represents those and the occupation by the Allies, the Soviets on the east and the Americans, but also the British, right, in the west. Looks amazing. Production quality is absolutely out of this world. They've done a fantastic job with this. I wanted to mention it because this is a game I would like to play in July sometime.
Yeah.
Maybe even take this to WBC.
Because
we
it
could get
sits
4
players.
players.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And
Werewolf.
is this widely available yet? I don't know.
I think it's coming soon.
So just
My guess is in July.
yeah. Okay.
But we got an advanced copy and it's pretty nice. I did an unboxing for it. Designed by Clint Warren Davey and Ben Fine from Legion. So looks amazing. I wanted to show that one. I got a ton of other games. I got the new expansion for Black Orchestra. I got the new standalone game for Valkyrie. We got Bell of Treason. I got Line of Fire Burnt Moon from Osprey Games. Off the Line by Mike Nagel from Blue Panther. I received Market Garden World War II Commander by John Butterfield.
Oh, nice.
We got the tri-pack number 2, American right there.
Yeah, we'll have to
Monmouth,
play that
Germantown,
too.
Newtown. So I have an avalanche of games that are sitting under the table, to the left of the table, behind the table, over here on the floor. It's embarrassing.
It's too many. It's too many.
It's crazy.
It's a lot.
I need some shelves.
Where are you going to put the
I
shelves?
don't. I would have to
the other
block
problem.
windows, and I don't want to do that. So crazy.
But yeah, there's a lot of games coming. There's a lot of games that we have recently acquired that we will get to as well, and I'm looking forward to playing a lot of those.
Yep.
What we'll do is we'll have an official word from our sponsor, Noble Knight Games.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more, going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at, complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
So very grateful for Noble Knight Games for sponsoring this video.
They make almost everything that we do possible.
Yes,
from our
that's
travel, buying and getting games. It's really a godsend for us.
Speaking of getting games, the game that I got from Noble
Yeah.
Knight was I went I went ahead and bought the Napoleonic Wars Second Edition.
Okay, so we had the Napoleonic Wars First Edition,
Yes.
and we are playing that this summer at WBC.
Yes, but we'll be playing the Second Edition.
Okay, so you are a psycho.
And I knew that would be the response.
Okay,
Because we bought the First Edition earlier in the year just to like have as like a
to
prop.
try to learn it in
but
some ways.
But the Second Edition is so different enough
Okay.
where like they redid all the cards, they redid
Okay.
the rules and the play aids, but
Nice.
like you can't use the First Edition.
Okay,
And they had a Second Edition, and I was like, you know what,
sure.
we're gonna do it.
I'm very much looking forward to that. They're going to play that game with us during the tournament, but not a tournament event.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's a couple of the old timers that have been playing it for decades. So Kip and
yeah.
Perv.
Kip and the Perv.
You know.
But that's
I'm excited.
I want to learn a game like that from experts
100%.
so that I don't have to like
Yeah.
ingest the rules as much necessarily. But then also like hopefully we'll get good strategy advice.
Sure.
And the ancillary stuff that when we're all new to a game, we're like
don't
making
know.
mistakes and we don't know we're
Yeah.
making those mistakes.
Very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
Think
that.
it's
But
gonna
yeah,
be
that's
awesome.
I bought that from Noble Knight.
Okay. Well, you're forgiven.
Yeah. We also picked up that 1775
Oh, yeah.
Birth of America game as well.
Which I love that game. I've played it with my brother a couple of times, and I didn't have it. And I'm like, why don't I have that game? So, did I need the game?
Oh, are you going to play any games with Dean?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what we're going to play. So I'm going to Atlanta. That's one of the reasons we had to do this today, because I'm leaving for Atlanta tomorrow.
But what would you want to play?
Well,
Spartacus?
Spartacus is a game that I want to play. Spartacus is one of those 5-player games that's just Ameritrashy, use some miniature combat in the arena, based on the TV series, right, from about 15 years ago on Stars.
Do you remember the guys who were playing that at WBC?
I do.
Where they had like the Roman coins.
Oh, 100%. They were totally into it. Yep.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was like the coolest thing I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
I would never play that game without the Serpent and the Hound. I think it's called expansion because it just makes it that much better. I unfortunately don't own that expansion because it's out of print and extremely expensive.
That sucks.
But that's a game we'll play.
You know who's got it? Noble Knight Games.
Well, probably. I just need to look.
Put it on the email list.
That we're probably going to play lighter fare.
Sure.
Thunderstone is a game that we
Oh,
always
yeah.
play together.
Thunderstone Advanced.
No, he has the old classic Thunderstone, and he has like all 15 of the expansions, so we'll just play that. We'll also probably play Marvel United and Marvel, what's the deck building game? Can't remember, but it's the Marvel.
Champions.
I can't remember, but it's the Marvel deck building game. He has a ton of those, and we love those, as well as some new games. But he's like, bring some of your favorite war games. I said, Dean, my favorite war games take like 6 hours.
Yeah, like you don't want me to bring Here I Stand.
Yeah, you'll never play it. So he's not as hardcore of a gamer as I am. I think he does it more for the fun.
Would he
and
like
social.
Undaunted though? It being a
I
deck
think
builder?
I think he would, and maybe I will take that because it's just fun. It's just classic fun. But yeah, I mean I love my brother Dean. It's been a while since I've seen him. It's been well over a year, and going down for about 4 days. So gonna have a good time.
So anyway,
Yeah,
lots and lots of games going on.
crazy.
What we will do is we will knuckle down for the meat and potatoes. That's a food reference, which you'll get here in a bit.
The main topic
For the topic of today's debrief.
because it's food related.
It is.
It is food related.
This topic was suggested by one of our patrons, and if you would like to be able to suggest topics in the future, I make a post on Patreon every month, and people make comments and say, "Ooh, what about this? What about this?" And we typically pick one of those.
We can't choose all of them, but we typically do choose.
But I remind people, you can always resuggest.
Yep.
Just because we didn't
Yep.
pick it doesn't mean it was a bad idea.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
means there's only one a month.
Yep.
Sorry.
And sometimes it's interesting because I'm glad you're bringing that up because we get some great suggestions.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are, what's the word that I'm looking for? Work? Does that make sense?
Yes. Where it's like
It's like
very involved.
Yeah, do like a thematic comparison. And I'm like, I mean, we'd have to play both of those games again to remember all the elements so that we could do that deep of a dive
Yeah.
into the game.
Or there's what I like And what I think is a little bit gratifying in a way is we get suggestions for topics that already exist.
Sure.
And so there are times where we're like, oh, what about this and this? And I'm like, sweet, well, no, but
Yeah.
here's a video where we already did that for
Yeah, we
you.
already did that,
And I
yeah.
really like that. We've talked about when people are like, oh, what about like, what's your favorite Napoleonics game? That would be its own separate video.
Yeah, we
It's the
would do
reality.
a self-standing video where we'd highlight 5 or 6
And so,
Napoleonic games.
like because we've got one on the French and Indian War.
Yep. East Front we
We've
did.
got one at East Front. And
Tactical games we
tactical
did.
games. And so some of those are like
Already done.
Will be separate videos. So like
World War One.
we've talked about doing a World War I video. Oh, we already have.
Yeah, we've already done.
We've done some.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, at some point we'll do a Napoleonics video. We'll do like an Ancients video. Like those will eventually happen. And having those a little bit standalone makes them a bit easier for people to find.
Yeah.
Where they're not kind of tagged onto like a debrief that most people don't know what it is when they're looking at it.
But it's interesting because after almost 4 years, we are starting to kind of run the well dry and having to be a little more creative.
Yeah,
I think.
But then we go through so many games that sometimes when we revisit stuff, it's like
talk about
it's
new
like
games.
whole new stuff.
Yeah. True.
That's also exciting because it's like new things about the topic that I enjoy.
Yep.
But today's topic is beer and pretzel war games. What is a beer and pretzel war game? You ask?
We had a good discussion about this.
And I think everyone's definition might be technically different, but is
Sure.
generally
The same.
you know a beer and pretzel game when you see it.
Yeah.
A beer and pretzel game is a war game that you can play with friends whilst drinking a beer and eating a pretzel, right? It's very literal. Like, think about it that way.
Which I think means it generally has to be very approachable. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say rules light, but I think the rules need to be not necessarily overly complex.
Typically, you've read the rules and you know the rules.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
a game that isn't going to be on this list is the Grand Tactical series,
Sure.
right? You can play that game whilst drinking a beer on the side away from the table and eating a pretzel for lunch on your 15-minute lunch break. But we're not sat around a table. Like you can be having a good time around that table, but that's a very intense, a very rules intensive and involved historical simulation, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Whereas some of the games we'll talk about today, it's like it might be less serious. It might be just not as involved. We're all kind of hanging out, having a good time, and we're also playing a fun game as well.
Yeah.
Labyrinth, bit too heavy.
Yeah,
Topic is also a thing
Empire
as
of
well.
the Sun.
Too involved.
These are too involved games. There's too many calculations. There's too much strategy required. A lot of these games that we're going to highlight, I'm not going to say they don't have strategy, but they're a lot lighter fare.
Like, I think almost to all of the games that we're going to talk about today, apart from maybe one or two, I don't know if I care if I win.
Sure.
Like, I'm trying to win, but I'm not, like, upset that I didn't win in a way that I would be in, like, a very intense, like, head-to-head game.
Right.
Because these are the kinds of games where, like, I think fun is, like, the most forefront in what we're doing with game design. So
Well, I think they're designed to be that lighter game that people can just enjoy around the table, have a good time, socialize a little bit, cut up, do those things. And I think all these games that we've highlighted do that in very different ways. Some of them are very different. I also think a lot of these games have connections to other genre, like I think of Ameritrash a lot of times. To me, that's a more beer and pretzel style of game.
Absolutely. Without question.
And there's a couple Ameritrash games in here.
And I think the difference between an Ameritrash game and a beer and pretzel game is that when we talk about beer and pretzel games, typically it's a more like military historical focused thing. Instead of like, there are like fantasy style games that are also Ameritrash.
Although we have a fantasy style game in here.
But like, I don't know. That's a very
I
blurry
think you're
line.
right.
That's a very blurry line.
I mean, I think of Ameritrash games that I love, like the series from Cool Mini or Not, Come On.
Right.
Those
are Ameritrash. I wouldn't refer to them as beer and pretzel because
No. But they're Ameritrash.
Yes.
Definitely.
But like
big miniatures, cool dice, generally rules light, and just fun, right? Just a good, all games are fun. Every war game that we play is fun. Hex Encounter, deck building, chit pull, whatever, they're all fun.
Agreed.
Anyway, that's what our impression or view of these beer and pretzel war games are.
So let's just dive on it.
Yeah.
We got some kind of big bombastic games. We got some smaller, more intimate games. But first off, we're going to talk about Heroes of Normandy from, what's the company called?
Devil Pig Games. A company that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, perhaps I should bleep myself out.
And
Devil
that
Pig Games.
still has not fulfilled their
and never will.
Pacific Theater game in this series, and it made me very mad.
I think we took a bath on that,
We
unfortunately.
did. I mean, it was
don't
like
think that's ever gonna
$250
happen.
bath.
That was more than that.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Unfortunately,
But an excellent game and an excellent system. Very fun, very light, very
Yeah.
good.
incredible
I love it.
artwork.
Yeah.
This gives you an idea of what it is. This is a very
Well,
pulpy looking game.
This is one of my favorite parts here. We've got Dirty Dozen people on the spine, right? There's no shame in
Yeah.
what this game is. It's a pulpy,
It's
you
like
know,
a
knockoff of-
tactical miniatures game in a board game form.
without miniatures.
Because you have this like grid system, it's all cardboard counters with all sorts of different numbers and
Yep.
icons and everything. You chuck in your dice and doing that. Some of the scenarios are just cripplingly difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them,
well, the Normandy ones were real difficult.
yeah, those beach landings.
when
were
you have that freaking
awful.
big cannon gun shooting down at you, it's like, oh.
But it's
yikes.
one of those games where you're like, oh, I charge my guys up, you roll
Yeah.
some dice, what happens? Oh, it went catastrophic, or oh, it
Or
went
it
really
went really
well.
well,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, but it's like it feels great to play with. The components are amazing. The
Yeah.
rules aren't that intense. It's lots of symbology, and so when you're like, oh, these guys have this symbol, I can't remember what it is. Here's the little glossary. I'm
Right.
done. I didn't have to reference a 60-page rule book, look up the points, and then read a paragraph.
Yeah.
So whilst there are a lot of rules in this game, because there's so much stuff, half the stuff you don't use in a scenario.
Yeah.
And then when you do, it's pretty easy to pick it up, and lots of the symbology like connects or is like variants of it, and so you know broadly what you're seeing on the map as well. And it's a fun game.
Yep,
It looks great. You
100%.
play the game, and it's fun.
I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about it, other than just the cool tactical elements and the different abilities, the uniqueness of the units, and I mean, you've got some planes, you've got all different types of troopers, different types of vehicles and tanks, and it just all works together to create such a fun and engaging tactical game.
Yeah.
We played 2 or 3 of these missions, and I actually have a ton of it, right? I bought so much of it, and we just have only had a chance to do like some of it, which is so us.
But there's a ton of this. There's like Heroes of Stalingrad.
Oh, yeah.
There's Heroes of Blackreach, which I believe is like a Warhammer 40,000 version.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
But like we back to the Heroes of the Pacific, but
yeah.
they folded because I think there was something of a Ponzi scheme going on.
I guess.
Though I don't
And I
like
feel
to
bad
speculate.
for the designers, Clem and something else, because they put their heart and soul into the system.
Yeah, I don't
and
think it was their fault, but-
No, I mean, they didn't run the company, but it also...
So getting a hold of this might be difficult. I don't know.
It might be. My guess
But
is Noble
also,
Knight
like,
would have
I
it.
don't know. I encourage.
Sure.
If Devil Pig Games ever shows up again, I'm not sure I would encourage
Yeah,
people to
I'm
support
not.
them.
But I very much enjoyed this, and definitely a beer and pretzels
Yes.
style of war game. Definitely.
What we got going on?
Well, I'm going to pull some of these off here. Sorry. So, I got to be careful. I forgot
Yes.
those little miniatures. All right, so this is a game we played probably 7 or 8 years ago from PSC Games called Battle of Britain. And this literally is the Battle of Britain, right, in 1940, as all the German planes go across the channel and the...
Yeah, and one of you plays as a German
Yep.
sending the bombers
One
over.
plays as the
One of you
RAF.
is the RAF trying to shoot them all down.
It uses miniatures, fairly rules light. There's a cool card mechanic. I just really had a good time with this game. I would classify this as a beer and pretzel game because of the miniatures, I feel like.
Sure.
Because I think if you took the miniatures away, I'm not sure it's as beer and pretzel-y. Because it's actually pretty crunchy. It's simply crunchy. But
Yeah.
it's got a lot of interesting mechanics, the different cards that you have.
And so this is designed by Richard Borg, who did the Commands and Colors series
Yep.
of games. That should give you an idea of where this sits complexity-wise.
Yeah.
Like, it's not mega complex, but there's stuff to consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, you move the planes around into these different areas, and I'm trying to run over here and stay away from you, and you're trying to chase me down,
Yeah.
and there's great cat and mouse element to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And then you get into the fights, and then there's all the fighting going on.
Well,
But it's a fun, and it
Yeah.
looks great, and you play
And it's something you can play. I think you could play this with your dad. I think you could play this with your children. But it's a fun game.
and just it doesn't take all that long.
No, it's
either,
and it's
right?
only 2-player. Maybe they should have done a 4-player, and maybe it is a 4 up to a 4.
It says 2 to 4. But
Okay, so you
I'm
could
pretty
split the
sure you
commands.
just split the commands, and
Yeah.
you do half as much.
But I don't know. Anytime you have the Luftwaffe and the RAF going against it,
And it's
in the
like
Battle
little
of Britain-
planes on
Oh, so
standees,
cool.
and you're moving them around. It feels great.
And I just really enjoyed this game, and I was so glad that we played it. There's videos on the channel. There's written stuff on the blog.
Great artwork as well.
Yeah, it's a great game. I like those style of games, and those to me are the epitome of beer and pretzel.
Something that's a little different. I have Pacific Victory from Colombia Games. Now, you could include a good amount of Colombia's block war games.
I
on a
think
list
a
like
lot
this.
of their block war games are beer and pretzel like.
And that's because the rule system is very light. It's very easy to know the core rules, and then what you're looking at is there a unique kind of initiative system, and then what are the individual game differences. I picked
And they generally all use kind of the same combat system. The
Oh, yeah.
fire priority, you're chucking dice.
Yeah,
pretty,
you
pretty
chuck
simple.
dice based on the number
The
of pips you
pips.
have, and you're trying to hit based on the number that you've got or whatever it is. I picked this one though because this is the Pacific War,
Grand strategic level.
and it takes a bit longer. You're going to play this for like 3 or 4
4
hours
hours,
versus
yep.
the 1 or 2 that you might play for some of these other ones.
Yep.
But it's even a game at that length, and this is like, hey dude, this is like the Pacific theater of World War II. This isn't like some pulpy action hero thing. There's no zombies. There's no like craziness.
Right.
Like you're just playing the war start to finish. But it's awesome. It's like a game this big and grand. It is rules light for that, and you just do it, and you go start to finish through the entirety of the Pacific theater of the war, and you feel so accomplished when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where you're like, here's my big ass navy, here's your big ass navy, let's go for it.
Yep.
And you chuckle and dice at these big naval engagements, and everyone pulls back, rearrange some guys, go again over
Yep.
here, and it, in a way that something like Empire of the Sun is very intense.
Yeah.
This
is a lot lighter.
It loses. It doesn't have as much intensity because you're just like you're going at it and you're doing the things, and the dice will be as the dice are,
Yep.
and you just kind of got to roll with it in a way that you are trying to avoid in other games where you're trying to like be a bit more cautious and like be cutthroat. This one's so fun. It's just really, really enjoyable.
Another game from Colombia that we don't have here in front of us or with us, it's at your house, Alliance,
Yes.
the Napoleonic war game that just came out a couple of months ago. It is also, to me, a beer and pretzel style
Yeah.
Napoleonic war game. That one plays up to 7 players. You've got your blocks. You're trying to position those blocks so that nobody can see them. It kind of makes for a fun environment. There's some negotiation going on. There's some backstabbing and deal making, and it ultimately comes down to, I think, France is going to get dogpiled while
Yeah.
they're strong, and then somebody's going to emerge from it as the victor, who played the game probably the way that it's meant to be played.
Yeah.
Tentatively at first, aggressively when the opportunity presents,
And then
making
held
your
on for
alliances.
dear
Yeah,
life.
but a lot of their block games, Richard III, to me is a beer and pretzel style. Wizard Kings.
Wizard
love
Kings.
that freaking game.
Excellent.
Yeah, love that game. But that's definitely a beer and pretzel style, because you can play this with anybody, and you're 2 or 3 beers in, you're still going to be able to play this.
Yeah, and like I use my wizard and I throw my 10d6 for the fireball. Like, yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's just good old-fashioned fun, but I really like this one because I think
Oh, it's so good.
It's got like a meat to it without being overly long, and it's like it can be a little bit more serious than Wizard Kings because of the topic.
I would agree.
Which I think is a neat, like this is what a beer pretzel game can look like this as well. It can look like Wizard Kings, but it can also look like this.
The other
think
thing I
that's
really
cool.
liked about that was China is a big part of it.
Huge.
A lot of those PTO games, that's not necessarily the case. China's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that very, very much. Then I'm going to do kind of a series here, so I'm going to pull out 2 or 3 games, and many of you are going to groan.
This is like the original Beer and Pretzels game.
Yeah. And I've got like 3, I've got, how many versions up there? 1, 2, I've got 4 or 5 others that are off the table. Oh, and by the way, I have Invasion Normandy, which is a Beer and Pretzel style game like this.
A very expensive one.
Right. Don't remind me. But Axis and Allies, right? There are dozens of volumes in this, from Pacific to Guadalcanal,
To zombies.
Europe, the Zombies one, which we've never played. We keep threatening that we're going to play that around or Halloween, and we never necessarily do.
And this year we're gone for October.
Well, and this one, World War I, is one that I bought last year at
I want to play this very
Gen Con, and I
badly.
very much want to play it.
Agreed.
But Axis and Allies to me is the classic. I don't want to say the first, but I think some of the first Beer and Pretzel style war games, and definitely the first ones that I was introduced to when I was a teenager.
Well, they had Risk, and that game sucks.
It sucks. It
But-
fills a niche, but these were the next step up.
But you make
from
something like
Risk.
this because it was us who wanted to get together and do something reasonable and like historical, and we got these awesome games. They take a long time,
They do. I mean, these games are 4 to 6 hour games.
but they look
right?
amazing.
They do.
Oh, you know what?
You got minis.
You know what my favorite Axis and Allies game is? Oh no, it's not Axis and Allies. Do you ever play the Lord of the Rings Risk?
Yeah. Oh, I love that one. I got it on my shelf over there.
That's a freaking 10 out of 10 game.
That is a Risk game that is amazing.
That's the Risk game that.
Yeah, that's the one that I
love
would
that
play.
game. Like it, but like it's like stupid, but it's
yeah.
awesome.
I don't know that it's stupid. It's just
That's like the same rules, where it's like,
Well, yeah.
like
But
Risk
it's
has
also-
an objectively bad set of rules, but Lord of the Rings miniatures in the map,
Yeah.
I'll play all day.
yeah, it's a blast.
But yeah, Axis and Allies is so fun, and there's so
Yeah.
many different iterations that if you want to get into Axis and Allies, you can be just the Axis and Allies guy, right? You could have
Yeah.
whatever 15 or 20 volumes of
Yep.
this that there are, and
Well,
like,
the new ones that they've come out with the North African one. I've got it. It's
yes,
right over there.
which looks awesome.
Where is it? Yeah, right there. I've got the Guadalcanal one. They have a Stalingrad one coming out this summer. I'm definitely going to jump on that and buy that.
So Guadalcanal, I think, is that was an old one that they redid.
It was, yeah.
But North Africa's new, Stalingrad's
I think
new,
North Africa's new, and I think Stalingrad is new.
Because I remember there was Axis and Allies Europe, and that was like, one of the local ones.
And I have that up there as well.
That was kind of
right there. Although I have kifed all the miniatures for that
Invasion.
game.
But I feel like that was the first one. It was like, it was like just this little bit here.
that theater.
But I think they're doing more of those theater style ones to keep the line fresh, because it's been kind of picked up by Renegade Games Studios, and they're like really giving this stuff a facelift and redoing a lot of these, and I think that's awesome.
This is a Renegade Games
Yes.
Studios production. This one is not. This is
no,
Wizards
yeah,
of
this
the
one's
Coast.
Wizards of the Coast still.
So, and I think the
Has
Guadalcanal, the North Africa are Renegade Games Studios. So yeah.
But I think it's very cool to see a company investing in a series that
An
almost
old
every
classic.
single one of us have played and getting it back out there again. I think that's cool.
I think many of us cut our teeth on these style of games. I didn't grow up around Hex and Counter like many of you did. My dad played some games, but not necessarily. He was a pretty serious guy, but he was in the Navy or Air Force. I'm sorry, Navy. What the hell am I talking about? He was in the Air Force, and I just always was interested in this. And these games, to me, are classic Beer and Pretzel. They're Ameritrash as well.
Yes.
But they're classic, I think, Beer and
you
Pretzel
sit around all day having
style
some
games.
snacks, hanging out with a whole group of friends,
Enjoying
yelling
yourself.
and screaming,
Yep.
having a good time.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with
No,
that.
absolutely not. Next up, we're going to talk about Wild Blue Yonder.
Which is a card-based.
Again, a very different style of game.
Yep.
Beer and Pretzel games, we've talked about some kind of big, grand ones. This is a card game. It comes in this huge, big old box,
With a lot of cards.
but it's a card game.
Yep.
You will have, and what's funny is, as many cards as there are in here, the reality is
Yeah.
these are the decks of cards.
Yeah.
Everything else is planes that you can play
Yep,
as.
yep.
Which is insane, by the way.
Yeah,
this is the game.
Yep.
This is what you play with the pieces.
Been a while since I've looked
Just
at this.
nutso.
And all this stuff here is just play aids and cards
Campaigns and different variants and versions.
Because there's no board in this game.
No. So this is a game where you will play as like, I have a single airplane.
Sometimes you have a wingman.
And a wingman,
Yep.
typically. And then you have that, and it can play up to 8 players, I believe. It says 2 or more. I think you can play 8 players in one box, but it might be 4 players. But if you have 2 boxes, you can do 8. I can't remember exactly. But
And this is a part of the Down in Flames series.
yeah, Down in Flames. And this one came out in 2017. And basically what they did is they collated almost
bunch of-
everything that they could that's like World War II, and they put it all in this box.
Yep.
So it's a crazy good value at the time. But it's a card game. Here's my little plane. Here's my little wingman. And I've got this deck, and I draw a hand of cards based on, my airspeed and all sorts of different things.
Elevation and airspeed, I think.
And then I'm playing a maneuver to try to outmaneuver you. You're trying to counter that maneuver.
And gain position.
And then I'm trying to counter your counter. And then you're trying to counter your but you don't want to use all your cards.
Right.
Don't do that. Because then, depending on what happens at the end of us going back and forth, I will gain position on you or nothing, or I might end up tailing you. Ooh, really strong.
Yeah.
When it flips back to you. And then you're going to initiate and do some stuff. And then we're going to do this back and forth, and then if you can get to fire on someone because you've got position on them and you've got a fire card that allows you to do that, you're going to fire and you're going to do some damage to them. They're going to take some damage. What does that damage look like? It could look like all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then, you're trying to ooh, but then you're damaged. I get fewer cards next time. Uh-oh, not great. And you're doing all this back and forth. It takes 10, 15 minutes to play.
Yeah, games are very quick. This is less deadly than the Down in Flames Jets one.
Yes.
That we played from Dan Verson Games. That one, you get hit once, you're done.
Yeah.
Generally.
So this one, you get raked by some machine gun fire.
You can live 2 or 3 of those hits.
It's not great, but
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
live, yeah. If
Yeah.
the gosh, what was that one called? Down in Flames Locked On.
Locked On.
It was
Great game.
Jets. If they get tone on you, you're dead.
Done.
I think you roll a D10 and on 9 out of 10 chances you die. It's
something
over.
like that.
And so that one's only positioning. This one, you can dogfight and do bits and pieces. You shoot each other. You can live and fight on. That one's but it's just a very different style of game. But it's not particularly serious.
No.
You don't need a lot of the rules to get into this.
It's pretty simple.
Even though there is lots of rules for campaigns and for bombing
yeah.
and all this other stuff. I got some guys, you got some guys, we're going to shoot each other to death. Real easy. It fits in this little small space. Time-wise, this is quite a big box, I realize.
But the table presence is very, very small.
But you can
play it
sit
anywhere.
with lots of different numbers of people, went from 2 to 8, and that's cool as well.
Yeah.
And it's real fun. It's just a fun little card game. That's a very unserious type of game for a lot of people, where you can give someone a plane and a hand of cards.
Yep.
And you say, I'm going to play a loop-de-loop. I'm sure it's not called that. A barrel roll. And then you say, do you have a card that counters this? It says on the card that it does. They're going to look through, ooh, I do. I play that. Okay, the initiative's over to you. What do you want to play?
Yeah.
And
and you go back and forth. And
you can teach someone just like that. It's really easy.
Yep.
And so I think huge credit to this for being in a different space, but also unserious.
And I also think it's a very good game.
Oh, well, it is also an excellent game.
The system is cool. It's interesting. It's unique. It creates some good back and forth. You're never really out of the game, but it's about smart card play.
Yeah.
You don't want to shoot your whole load out
unless
it's that killing blow.
You can get it.
Yeah,
but that's the gamble.
Yeah,
you get a really great gamble in a 10-minute game.
Because if I remember correctly, you don't refill your hand until it's your turn again.
Yes.
So that's why you might have 6 cards, and you're on the offensive or have the initiative. You might only play 2 or 3 and then say, you know what? My cards that I have aren't necessarily great. I gotta reserve some of those to get away from his attacks.
And it's you've got this great attack card, but it's also a great defensive
card.
Yeah. And you're like, do I use it?
So it's a back and forth. You kind of want to force the other player to use all their cards. You really do.
But if you exhaust yourself doing that,
then you're done.
And they end up not, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because then they can do what they want with you, and you're like, I can't respond.
But I think that game is a classic beer and pretzel.
Yeah.
Small footprint, easy rule set, simple mechanics. You just use cards. There's not a lot to fiddle with. You've had a couple too many beers, you're not fiddling with counters.
Yeah, it's
or even
just not
dice,
that
you're
serious.
just playing the cards. So perfect beer and pretzel style game. I've got another card game that I wanted to highlight. The Undaunted series, right? So this box is the reinforcements. I actually have all of my games, Normandy, North Africa, reinforcements in this box. It was designed as such.
Ugh.
This is a deck building game from Osprey Games designed by David Thompson, Trevor Benjamin. Very rules light. It is a tactical level, squad-based card game. You have counters, circular counters on a modular board. You don't have hexes. There's no real line of sight rules. There's no real of those kind of, and that's some people's problem with it.
But
oh, there's a house there. You can't shoot me. No,
to those people, I say it's not that kind of game.
Play another game.
This is a beer and pretzels game.
Yeah.
This isn't some tactical simulation game.
No, it is a beer and pretzel style game. But to me, the thing that I enjoy the most about this game, the deck building mechanic is so very good because you have the things called fogs of war, which you are you yawned and I yawned. You're trying to avoid those because they act as deck cloggers. And there's cards, your scouts, that allow you to get rid of those cards. And that's such a great balance to understand, oh, I'm going to get those in this way and I can get rid of them in this way. I love that part of the game. So this one does require a little more strategy than some other card games like a Down in Flames, because this does have the tactical element with the actual board presence. And you're trying to capture objectives and
you're playing.
Of things.
It's the deck builder that plays this out for you, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
but it's what I also like about this series is you've got all of this stuff. You've got the Battle of Britain.
Yep.
You've got the Undaunted Callisto,
which is fantastic.
So there's a few different things that you can just pick the one that tickles your fancy.
Yep.
But they all give you this same kind of level of game.
Yeah.
Even though they've got their own differences. They all would, check the box for being a beer and pretzels game, right? It's a deck builder. Everyone knows how to play a deck builder.
Well, I
move guys from one square to another.
Yep.
That's a movement. I shoot a guy, roll the d10, try to hit an 8. It's really that simple.
Yeah. I also like how the game somewhat ramped up in its complexity a little bit through the various volumes. Normandy was pretty standard. Didn't have vehicles. Pretty standard guys on a map were fighting each other. North Africa really changed it. It changed the scale. It added vehicles, tanks and recon and planes. And then they kind of ramped that up in the reinforcements, which added tanks to Normandy. And then the Battle of Britain one is all about airplanes. So I love how they've changed those and added to the system. They haven't just stamped Undaunted on the box and forced you to buy a new expansion. They're really all unique and very different. Even their most recent one, which was on my top 10 games of 24, I think it was 7 or 8, the Callisto, it's a different setting, sci-fi, but it has cool mechs that you can use. They're very different, lots of asymmetry. I just think the system's very good, but it is very approachable.
Yes.
You can get this and enjoy this no matter who you're playing it with.
And I think the other cool part about this game is that it's very easy to purchase as well.
Yeah.
This is the kind of game that you can find at Barnes & Noble. I think there was a time where you could buy it at Target.
You can get it on Amazon still.
That level of accessibility means that it's it's easy for people to get a hold of and to digest.
Yep.
And play. That's also something that's, Osprey does a really good job of marketing some of their games and distributing them in a way that other companies, it's more, it's hard to get Battle for Normandy.
Sure.
Right? This massive $170, $80.
And that game has a place.
Yeah.
Just it's not a beer and pretzel style game.
I can't buy it at Target, right?
No, you can't. You're going to have to search it out on Noble Knight.
But something like this, you can.
Yeah, right.
And that's awesome. That helps the on-ramp to something like this. I'm like,
100%.
let's just play that game. Okay, cool.
Well, and it's fun too. I've never played a game of this. And they have the Legacy style version. I've got that over there, the Stalingrad one. It's just a blast. So, Undaunted, many, many games in the series. Pick the one that you think you like, and you'll enjoy it.
Next up, we are going to talk about D-Day Dice from
This was a
Wordforge Games.
really fun game.
And this is the second edition.
Yeah, with some expansions, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
There are
like,
more expansions in this you can ever
This is
play.
like full to the brim.
Yeah,
And
Here, let me-
we also have D-Day Dice Pacific backed as well.
coming, yeah.
Like it's
It's just crazy. I love the custom dice, though. It's just
and
amazing.
There's like the course dice, but then there's all these additional dice you can get
Yep.
your hands on, or like come from different special units that you've got.
Yep.
Just real fun. But this one is a cooperative game.
Yep.
Or it's a
Solo.
very good solo game as well, right? It's a good
Have
beer
you ever
pretzel
played
solo.
it solo? I think we talked about it, but we never got around to.
But you know, it's that Yahtzee King of Tokyo style
Right.
where you roll some dice. And
You're looking for results.
Try to go again, and then it's like, okay, I assess what I've got, and I line up with my special abilities of what my faction has,
Mm-hmm.
what my different soldiers and specialists can do, and then I'm pinging all these abilities to, you know, gain more stuffs and to advance up the beach, and you're just advancing up the beach, and there's requirements of how
Yeah.
much that you need to go.
And it's just area movement, right? It's
Yeah.
like this area to this area. You have to meet certain conditions, and you can move in there.
When you move in there, usually bad things happen.
Well, you usually take a lot of times you take damage immediately.
Yeah, but then there's also a German counterfire that
Yeah.
will do damage to you and kill your guys, and so then it's like try to rally everyone and move
Yeah.
up again. It's great.
I'm trying to think in the 4 or 5 times we've played. I think we only won once.
I believe that's the case. I think we won
So it's
one.
challenging.
Yes,
And there is some strategy to it. I also like the element of you're trying to build your tableau of soldiers. Different soldiers have different abilities. Those different abilities affect how effective you are. Can you get a reroll? Or can you, some of them are like, turn this die into this die, which you might need.
And something I really like is when you play kind of like the introductory ones, it's kind of everything's available to you, and so you're like, oh, pick the most powerful guys.
Sure.
Because you can figure that out pretty quickly. But you'll play on some of the beaches where it's like
You don't have this guy.
or it's like you don't, but it's like you must have this guy to go
Yeah.
here, and so you're like, cool. Well, I got to buy that guy, and I
Yep.
got to try to make best use of him instead.
Yep.
And so some of the scenarios force you into different play styles, which I think is really neat, because one of the things that people say about this game is it gets a little bit samey after a while. And
Sure.
there's an element of that. But I think in a beer and pretzels game, that's almost what you want.
Yeah.
I don't want to
So
have
you
to
can
relearn
get familiar with it.
a game every time.
Agreed.
Because I think we can enjoy this. We
Yeah.
played a lot of very intense, war games. But I could play this with my brother who doesn't play Hex Encounter war
Yeah.
games, and he would play it and enjoy it. And we could play it as many times as we wanted, and he would still continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the idiot who's going to get bored because I'm like, I want Empire
Sure.
of the Sun. But I think most normal gamers out
Gamers,
there
yeah.
would still have a great time with something like
Yeah.
this. Like,
Well, when you
and that's-
become
that-
familiar with the system, you just want to play more of that.
yeah, I think that some of us see that as a negative, but I think more broadly in the hobby, that's actually not a
appeal.
negative thing.
Yeah, it's an appeal.
Yes. So D-Day Dice, really just a
Yeah.
fun dice chucking game.
And I think it's funny. I bet wouldn't you say there's about 20 different little expansions in there?
Probably. It's
And
something crazy.
We've played
that.
like 2 or 3 of them. We haven't even come close.
Yeah, because there was like 3 big box expansions, which
Yeah.
basically have like
3 to 5 expansions.
scenarios
Yeah,
and, then
yeah.
and then there was like
Little
so many
ones.
little packs
Just
and
extra
micro
dice,
expansions. Just it was so cool.
Yeah, that is a great game. Another beer and pretzel style game that we have recently enjoyed, that I actually really enjoyed this game. Is this the greatest game of all time? No, it's not.
No.
But the system is interesting, unique, and I had a good time with it. I think the board isn't necessarily great. I remember my eyes kind of hurting just a little bit.
It's a high contrast board.
But the miniatures are cool. I think the mechanics are cool. There's some economics in this one, meaning the longer you hold factories, they're going to give you money, and then you use that money to then buy more units. You buy better units. You have access to more units, and it's about, abstractedly, this is the European theater of World War II, and you're fighting over generic area, right? There's no, this isn't Cologne, or this isn't, you know, whatever. It's generic.
Yes.
So it's very Baron Pretzel-y. I think the rules are simple enough, although they did take, I remember it took a couple turns to get the move and the combats and because there's some unique differences.
Well, this is a German game.
Yes.
German designer, and the rules are translated. Generally speaking, they're okay. There's a few vagaries in it because translation is a very, very difficult skill.
Yeah.
But we were able to get it in the end.
Yep.
So just know that kind of going into this.
Well, and this is published by PKB Games, which stands for Philip.
It's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, Philip K. Berger. And they did another one called Trench Club before this one. So that was the first game. This is the second game. The other comment I would have about this is I love the miniatures, the little rods that they have coming off of them, because they track not only damage, but they track experience.
Yeah.
Once experience gets high enough, you start rolling more dice.
You're slamming people.
And you're hitting on better results, right? Under the normal circumstance, you may only hit on a 4 or less. When you get a couple things of experience, you're hitting on a 6. And then when you get to the top level, you might be hitting on an 8, depending on what the unit is. So the concept of going back and forth and protecting your units, and healing those units because, that's a really good unit.
Or like, you got the good guy, I'm going to target him.
I'm going to try to smoke him,
because he's lethal. I got to get rid of him.
Or I'm going to fly my bomber over to that, and I'm going to take care of that. But it makes for such a light and engaging environment that anybody can play this, and I think it fits definitely squarely into the beer and pretzel style of war game.
Yes.
The miniatures are great too. A little fragile. We had some problems with some of the standees.
Also, my favorite part about this was when I released the video for this game, I had misspelled the title of it on the thumbnail.
Oh, did you really?
And so it said Aces and Amour. Like Aces and Love. I missed out the It was great.
That's hilarious.
So the people were on comment, I was like, okay,
I'll change it. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty fun system. Very much enjoyed it. So
yeah, it's just like this fun, light game.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a hold of a copy of the Trench Club.
We'll have to look on Noble Knight Games.
Right. And I also think there's a Trench Club Legacy style of game.
Because that's like a World War I tactical game,
It's World War I,
right?
yeah. I mean, Trench Club is a trench club that you would use in the trenches.
But is it like this, where they've got like pegs on units?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
I think they've evolved the system a little bit, so I don't know how different rules-wise.
I had heard that this was like an improvement on that system.
But
I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, while this isn't the greatest game I've ever played, it's probably not going to make my top 10 list in 2025. I did have a good time with it.
But this is the kind of fun game that you would play because it's not super mega serious, right? It's just like, here's my guys, and
moving around.
It's about going and taking the factories.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go take the factories then. My cute miniatures round, roll the dice, shoot some guys.
My favorite part was the cat and mouse we played with our units. Like, we're looking and we're like, if I take one more damage, I'm dead. Your unit's 3 spaces away from me. I'm safe, so I'm not going to worry about it. But if we were like 1 or 2 spaces away, you're like, oh, damn, I got to move that guy out. And you only get a couple actions per turn.
The other very cool thing about this is that you can play it competitively or cooperatively. And that's a big thing, that a lot of these games have a co-op option in them.
Yeah.
And something like this, like, you can play it head-to-head, that's beer and pretzels. You can do it 4-player, that's awesome. But you can also do cooperatively against the AI. And the AI was fine.
I feel like the cooperative nature, it's like a cop-out, though. Because we did it cooperatively.
Sure.
Right? We fought against the Germans. Because it actually is up to 4 players. I think you can play up to 4.
Yes, because there's 2 Germans. And
I would recommend 4 players. But anyway, kind of an interesting game.
Yeah.
And definitely sits squarely on the beer and pretzel side of the ledger.
Next up, we're going to talk about Burning Banners from Compass Games. This is part of their Golden Age collection. So, Burning Banners, Rage of the Witch King.
This one won a Charlie recently, by the way.
And it should have won lots, because it's very fun. So this is, I think so far we've talked about almost exclusively like historical war games.
Yeah, this is a fantasy.
I wanted to throw this on here because a fantasy game can also be a beer and pretzels war game. This one, it feels a bit more wargamey than some of the other fantasy games.
Well, it's
we've
Hex
played.
Encounter as well.
Yeah, because it's Hex Encounter. They have values on them. You chuck the dice for combat, and like there's very familiar Hex Encounter tactical elements to this game.
Yep.
And so this sits really well with non-wargamers because it's a fantasy game, but also with us wargamers, it's like, yeah, cool, this is like a wargamer with the fantasy on it. But the fantasy is so good. It's the factions are so wildly
Very
different.
asymmetric.
Cool different powers. You got these like decks of magic spells that you're casting on each other.
Very fun.
All sorts of different setups of scenarios, all sorts of player counts, anywhere from like 2 to 4, I think, is where it caps out.
I remember how difficult it was to get this in the box. I don't want to take it.
So I have the cube for me tray
I do
insert
not.
that helps immensely, but it is packed very tightly in here. But I really, really enjoyed this game. This was everything that I wanted Divine Right to be, and it wasn't. Like
2 to 6 is what it
Oh, it does 6?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll have to play a big game.
We did 4-player.
Yeah,
we did 4-player, and
then
then we played it twice.
Yeah, but like, it's when you're doing this stuff, it's fast paced. There's a little bit of downtime in this game.
That's my only complaint.
That's with 5 or 6 players, it might be quite a lot of
downtime.
But when we were playing it 2-player, it was just this small little board. You're just going at it. The artwork's incredible. This is all kind of hand drawn by Christopher Moller, who's the designer.
Yeah, the designer
talented.
was a comic book artist for Marvel, and you can definitely tell. So, one of the best produced games I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in a war game.
Feather and Compass Games has had.
Beautiful. Everything is pre-rounded
and like really thick.
Yeah, it's just very well made. Beautiful dice. They're not custom dice, are they? They're just like 8-siders and 6-siders.
The only thing that you could say that this game would benefit from is metal coins.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But like that's also like unrealistic.
And I don't think it had a good play aid, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but
it was
fantastic game that
fun.
Everyone I've played this with has had a great time with it.
Like if you liked Divine Right back in the day, if you like Wizard Kings, this is going to be right up there for you.
Because I think this is kind of what Divine Right was going for.
To be
honest, it's like the next evolution of Divine Right.
Yeah, this is what Divine Right should have been when it was redone.
Yeah.
But you also get that huge deck of spells.
Oh, it's so fun.
You're like, that feels very Wizard Kings to me, where it's like, I'm moving my guys and we're doing some fighting, and then you're like, kapow, kapow, I shoot my lightning, and it's so cool.
Well, and the special characters and their special abilities, very unique and interesting, and you've got to capitalize on those.
And the factions are totally separate and different, and that's just
I played the orcs, I think, both times, or the goblins, and they're just so different because they don't have an economy like a traditional economy, and they will burn themselves out. So learning how to use them, I think, is very important. But that's a great game. It really is a great game.
Really, really good.
Another more new one that I wanted to bring up, actually the second and third game in this series are on the way. I backed them on GameFound. Limits of Glory series. This one's called Bonaparte's Eastern Empire. Why do I classify this as a beer and pretzel style war game? Because this is an area kind of activation. You actually roll dice to determine whether you can move or not, which I think is a very cool and unique way. So I call this beer and pretzel because it's really focused on a lot of the die rolling.
Yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily as serious of a game. I also think the topic chosen and the theater chosen for the first in the series probably is a lot more one-sided than hopefully some of the others will be. I mean, in this one, literally France just runs roughshod over Syria and Egypt. But very much enjoy the mechanics in this one with the event clock, and as you're rolling your dice, certain events will happen. Certain events that do happen will trigger other things from opening up or even bring an end to the game. I find that to be very fascinating and interesting. Also a light way of dealing with this subject. The glory concept is also really fascinating because you can use glory to do any number of things. Reroll dice. that's very light, right? It's
Yeah.
I screwed this roll up. I'm gonna use 3 glory and I'm gonna re-roll those 3 dice.
Yeah, it takes a lot of the bite and the seriousness out of a game that if it didn't, it's very
If it's reliant on dice luck,
This one's like, I messed it up.
I'm gonna
Ooh,
re-roll.
I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna spend
yeah.
some of my points and try to go again. Oh, I messed it up again.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go again. Like,
and that's a finite resource that you have to manage. Although we found
the French
that
have a
French
lot
have so
of it in
much
this
of
game.
it. But you have to manage it or you're going to run out of it and burn yourself out, and then you won't be able to do anything. I think the interesting thing with this game also is most everything hits on a 5 and a 6.
Hang on.
Right? So you would think that that's hard to roll, traditionally. But when you're rolling 3 and 4 dice...
And you're getting re-rolls.
You're almost always... That was my one problem with it.
It's a very bloody game.
You can use your glory also to force the other side to re-roll, which I thought was
roll
fun.
out of things, which is nice.
And that whole glory concept is based on skill of a commander mixed with some luck
it's like
and circumstance.
And each leader, of which there's a lot, has
Have
a fixed
different-
value based
yeah.
on how historically well they perform, basically.
I just thought this system was very interesting and unique. Really brought, I think, a breath of fresh air to a genre that is... We're all just doing the same thing. This is very, very unique and
Napoleonics
different.
is almost always very intense.
Yes.
Very
This is a
rules
lot
heavy,
lighter.
very crunchy. This is easily one of the lightest
Yeah.
Napoleonics games I've ever played. I want to see more in the system from a scenario standpoint.
Well, I think the Capri and Saint Mauda, I think, are the 2 coming out. Very much excited about them. We'll see how that goes. But Limits of Glory, Bonaparte's Eastern Empire.
I think one of my last ones I've got here is SAS Rogue Regiment.
This was
I
a
will
great
not
game.
tip up because everything will spill out.
Yeah, this was a great game.
And they did an expansion on crowdfunding,
Like a year ago.
and they also added another expansion, just
okay.
barely, that was at a con. So that's all coming in the future, and it should all fit in this big box, is what they've said, which is pretty cool. So this is a tactical, like, your counter is 1 man, and you are heroes, and it is very heroic. You are SAS guys, and there'll be like 4 of you, and you are navigating whatever scenario it is that you choose. And there's a lot of them. And
We played,
they're
I
all
think, 2 or 3 different
very
ones.
different. But basically, it's sneaky, sneaky, sneak for half of the game.
And then fight, fight, fight.
And then by the time you've raised the alarm, then it's like guns ablaze.
Yeah. Very, very cinematic, very Hollywood,
Yes.
very action-packed. Action hero
Yeah.
at the end. It's pretty fun.
It's funny, that element of it where there's the 2 phases reminds me of Reichbusters, which has that exact same thing, although it functions differently, but it's very similar. But this one, it's a bit more grounded than that. But it's, it's like, ooh, I'm going to sneak through this forest. I'm going to stab a German patrolman in the back, drag his body into the bushes and hide it. Then I'm going to swim across the river, sneak through a building.
In my scuba gear, by the way.
And then I'm going to, like, lay a mine for the patrol that's coming along, get back into the building. Hopefully I set the fuse long enough, because you set your fuses, which is my favorite part
That
about
was pretty
that game.
fun.
Like, the deck is the timer, and you choose where the fuse goes.
Yeah,
in the
that
deck.
was pretty interesting.
And so you're like, okay, I gotta get it together. So you'll put like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards down. You put the
because
fuse in.
they're going to move here. Yeah.
So good.
Well, and I also thought, couldn't you shoot the Those were barrels.
You could shoot the fuel barrels.
The fuel barrels. So that was different.
But like,
But
you
it was
set up the
so-
explosives, and they were next to the barrels, and you could set up like. That's the kind of stuff you're doing, and then all explosions go off. Then the sirens start wailing. You're like, I gotta get back to the jeep and get out of here.
comes.
And then the waves of guys come on. So then it's like run and gun to get home. The explosions in the background is wonderful. And in very cinematic, like you say, it can feel a bit pulpy, although it's like thematically it's not very, but it feels that way. And you just have a great time. It can be very tense, but it can also be like, everyone's like, oh, we're all pinned down, and the one guy jumps out and guns down everyone on the bridge. You're like, that was amazing.
Well, my favorite part, and you've already mentioned it, but it's the sneaky, and then the let's go loud. Right? There comes a point where you're like, okay, we're hosed. Let's do it. It's on, and you just start.
And isn't
firing.
that how like all of those war movies are, right?
100%.
When we're playing this, I think of things like Where Eagles Dare.
Sure.
which is one of my favorite films of all time, or the new one. Have you watched The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
Yes, I have.
Very right.
Yep,
Every
100%.
situation they're in, they're like, "Oh, we're being all coy and
Yep,
sneaky,"
yep.
and then like,
And it
one of them does
explodes.
something like, "Let's go for it."
a style of Uncommon Valor. Do you remember that one with Gene Hackman, Vietnam, where they trained to go into, I think it was Laos or Cambodia, to extricate some American POWs that were still there, and they trained to be all this cool hidden choppers and snipers, and it just all went to hell.
Yeah.
And they all kind of just dove in, and half of them didn't make it out, but they did save some of the guys. But it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Right? It's just very good.
Yeah, it's a bombastic game. It's kind of like Heroes of Normandy in that it's all cardboard pieces, but it feels like a miniatures game
Sure.
in that way. That's a real.
It's
nice
very
part of
good.
it.
The final one that I have, and we actually have not played this version of it. We have played the World War I
Which is very good.
version, Quartermaster General. And this is the World War II version that I got on Noble Knight. And my copy came with a ton of expansions. So my
Like
box
barely fits in there.
it's chock full. I mean, huge value that I got from Noble Knight. And Quartermaster General, it's just a very simple, very
Yeah.
rules light game that you can play with anybody. It's fun. It's interesting. There's a lot of tactical choice. And it is a lot about how aggressive you want to be and whether your risks turn into rewards.
Yeah, and trying to get your allies to like help you capitalize
Right.
on things, or helping them to capitalize on things, because you win as a team, and if you can't get it done, it's like
Yeah.
tough.
But I very much enjoyed World War I. I think I've taken this to a convention a couple of times. We've just never gotten around to it. This is the World War II version, but the Quartermaster General series is, I think, very beer and pretzel.
Yeah, because it doesn't take long,
No.
and it's not that involved.
Yeah, I think the play time is listed here as, you see a time? I don't see it.
I don't, but it's not very long.
It's like 90 minutes,
Yeah.
60 to 90 minutes. And it's just fun. It's light, fun, and interesting. I look forward to playing this one in the future. So,
Oh, it says on the side.
Oh.
Yeah. It says 90 to 120 minutes.
okay, I don't feel like it's that long. But anyway, Quartermaster General, very cool little system.
But yeah, you could list a lot of games as like beer and pretzel, but I hope this was a good variety of different types of games. Just to like, if some of those might pique your interest of like, ooh, I hadn't considered something like that I could play in that kind of a situation. Because I think a lot of those games, we often, you hear like, oh, war games, no one wants to play them. Oh, they're so scary, they get scared of.
Sure.
These are the kinds of games that like they're games first, and they happen to also like be
about
like
war.
historically
Yep.
themed. But like the game part of it is at the forefront, and generally speaking, they're not massively rules complex. Even
Yeah.
something like SAS, which has a good amount of rules, like you can start like, all right, move your guys. You have a movement point value.
Yep.
Okay, great. Can anyone see you? Yes or no? Okay, they can. You're spotted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, okay, do you want to shoot them? Yeah. Here's your gun. Roll that number.
Yep.
Roll the gun. Shoot them. Like you can do it as simply as that. It's really not complicated.
Yeah.
You have to do like an hour-long teach of. Oh, when you pull the chit, you have to reference the card and then roll and add the modifier to get the activation value.
These games typically
There's
don't.
a time and a place for that. That's not what. That's not what these games are.
Yeah. I would also say, in my opinion, my mind, when I think of a beer and pretzel war game, another one that we had talked about doing was Red Dragon Green Crescent.
Yeah.
A modern warfare, brand new game from
It
Decision.
looks like it's not a
Looks
beer and
very
pretzel.
complex, but it is definitely beer and pretzel. It's a very simple game. You typically roll one die, and you get a result, and it's boom.
Yeah,
That's what happens.
You're rolling a die, trying to hit a number that's
Yep.
listed on the thing you're trying to hit.
Yep, pretty simple. But I think beer and pretzel war games, in my opinion, rules light, not necessarily overly complex, can be picked up fairly quickly, can be played by anybody, and I think they have to be fun
And I don't have
and
a
exciting.
headache.
You're right.
I'm not trying to grok this
It's
system.
got to be an enjoyable experience that I can once again socialize over, have a drink, and eat a pretzel.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that with The Enemy at the Gates from
No.
Compass Games. That's a fantastic war game.
I think about even something like Here I Stand. Like,
Yeah.
the group that we play with, we could have beer and pretzels.
Sure. One, we know the rules very well.
But that's because we know the
right.
rules well. Because we've played it so much, we've invested so much time in it. But even then, I still wouldn't consider it that because there's still so many times where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I have to verify the rule. I have to check the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, what about this one exception? There's still that goes
Oh, yeah.
on that you don't get in something like most of what we've talked
Yeah,
about
yeah.
here after a play or two.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to mention, which I didn't have with me because I no longer own it, Napoleon's Imperium.
Oh, 100%.
It's because Napoleon's Imperium,
Camels in Austria?
camels in
Vienna?
In Vienna,
Yeah.
yeah. Like tis a silly game, right? It's the Camelot of games.
Yeah.
But it was
and
we
it was
played it like
fun.
all frickin' day.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. And
I
it was
know not everyone
rules-light
at that
and
table
interesting.
liked it
I
because
know.
it could be stupid, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Because it's Axis and Allies Napoleon.
Yeah.
And that's why you can do stupid stuff with it.
Yeah.
But like, a game can also be very long, right? It
Right.
can be long and still beer and pretzels where like we sat around all day and it was like Oktoberfest by the end of
Yeah.
it. But like,
some people were belly aching the whole day, and that's okay. But we had a good time.
yeah.
We had a good time.
I'm not saying it's a great game.
No,
I'm saying I had a great time at that
Yeah,
table
yeah,
with
yeah.
our friends. And so sometimes a beer and pretzel game looks a little different.
Yep. Agreed.
But yeah, there's umpteen other games that we could pull off the shelves right now.
Sure.
But I want to hear about what you guys think. What are your favorite beer and pretzel games? What are your favorite beer and pretzel stories and experiences?
Yeah.
Let us know what you think because that's half the joy of this hobby, right? Is sharing
100%.
our experiences and what we loved. Anytime we play a big board game like, oh, it's amazing. I love the feeling of having played it, but I also love being able to talk to other people about that experience
Right.
who have shared an experience like, oh, that game was amazing.
Yep.
Or people who are like, oh, I haven't, but I really want to. You're like, yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
So please share your stories in the comments. I want to hear all those. That's like
Yeah.
the half the beauty of playing these games.
One other comment I would have, you know, we went to Basement Con earlier this year in March, right?
Yes.
Early March. And we played Virgin Queen.
Yes, we did.
We played Virgin Queen for I think the third time, and we played Here I Stand
Yes.
probably 5 or 6 times with the same group.
Yeah, with
kinda
that
over
group
and over
specifically.
again. And we did a video. We did one of our raw videos
Yes.
afterwards. And to me, that is the joy of those large war games and the joy of things like beer and pretzel style games. You sit around and you reminisce over the past 2, 3, 4, 5 hours
Yeah.
that you played and the things that happened, what might have gone differently, what should have gone differently, what I screwed up, what you screwed up, how you screwed me.
All the things that you were keeping a secret of like, oh, I was
Yeah.
going to do this, and then
Yeah.
you did that. Like, that's the joy of it.
But that's what, to me,
Yeah.
a big part of what beer and pretzel style games are.
Yes.
And Here I Stand and Virgin Queen, not a beer and pretzel style game. They share some of the DNA.
War Room, yes.
War Room, more of a, yeah, I'm surprised we didn't discuss
I didn't want to
that
bring
one.
it because
Sure.
it's freaking huge.
But I don't know. I think beer and pretzel really is about creating
Yes.
memories.
Those are the games where, like,
in my opinion.
the games are really good,
Yeah.
but the camaraderie around those,
It's a big
because
part of
we're maybe less
Serious.
involved in a
Yeah.
rule book,
Yeah.
is what comes to the fore. Absolutely, I would say that.
So I enjoy beer and pretzel war games as much as I enjoy Ameritrash style games.
I enjoy them as much as I like really intense Hex and
Yep,
Counter
and I love Hex and Counter war games,
I love
too.
those games.
Yep.
But like, there is also a place for just like,
on my table for these.
let's tone it down a notch.
Yep.
Let's sit down and play Alliance, and
100%.
where like
Have a
stupid
good
things are
time.
going to happen, cool things are going to happen, and we like who's it going to happen to?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Like there's a time and place for that. So let us know what your favorite beer and pretzel style games are. But appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander of theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.